All right. This might be it. So yeah, we can just continue. Couple of guys sent me notes. George can't make it tonight. He's at a show, and Rhett Tyler is at a birthday party. I don't know about anybody else, but I've been going full steam with this operations plan, and doing some research. There are so many different concepts that could be created. I was just listening to a podcast by the American Battlefield Trust on the Battle of Resaca, and they had one of their historians from the area get on, and he was talking about the trains that were used to supply the armies. And Joe Johnston had 4 trains a day supplying his troops, in addition to the WNA trying to work civilian needs at the same time. So yeah, so Bill, we got DC and I came up with a whole nother plan with the ammunition train, so we'll save that as a surprise. And if you want to come, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, what time do you want me there?
If you want to come around 10:30, I got some harp stands you could assemble for me.
Okay.
And I think Dave Eberhardt's going to be here a little early too. And I've got some light painting for him to do.
Hey, Tom, that engine's is a Gazelle.
Oh, okay.
Did
When
you
did it-
scratch build that fence, LeBron?
I did.
Going in back, the white,
I did. The one in back styrene.
okay, but you scratch build it?
I did.
Wow. Good, too.
I patented it after a fence at Newmarket.
That wasn't down on the WNA, man.
But the fence was.
Oh, okay.
It's right there. There's photographic evidence.
Right. Hmm.
When did they stop using names on locomotives?
I think it was right after the war when they started to recommission the locomotives. They started
Are you talking about any railroad or the Western Atlantic?
The general practice.
Oh,
Well, that lasted up until the 1880s. It depends on the railroad.
Hmm.
yeah. I don't know. Let's see. There's John Bach. Let's see. Did anybody have any questions? Any new discoveries? Any little updates?
Talk about your 3D printing at the show.
Oh, yeah, DC. He had it
Oh.
done this time.
That
I
was, it
was-
was pretty cool. Expensive, but cool. Yeah.
I bet.
Well, basically, if you just consider doing something like that, you want to know what what pose you want ahead of time. And well, I had 2 scans done. Because, hang on, give me a second here.
I will tell you that Bernard had a display of figures, and he had 2 of DC's in the display, and he said that there's one of those of DC's pose from last time that he's gotten a lot of requests for to purchase. So
Oh.
DC might be the new model for MiniPrints.
Oh, man, there it is.
I
You
got
should have
this
licensed
hat
yourself.
Yeah.
this time. Thing is that the scans don't pick up the brim very well.
Look, they got up there Bethley out of Tyler.
So, yeah, but it was
Instead of
funny
me.
because the first time they told me to take off my glasses because you could pick up the eye detail
Mhm.
better. And I did that, and then you had to go over and you kind of have to prove that the pose and stuff. And I just do that. I put my glasses on. And so, ready for the second scan. I'm sitting there about 2 minutes in. All of a sudden I'm going, I still got my freaking glasses on. I forgot to take them off again, so that was funny.
Right.
Yeah, it was fun, asking people to say, I said, would go up to the, where all there were O scale figures were, and I said, which one's me? And, a lot of people eventually found one. I said, okay, now where's the other one? And that seemed to stump out everybody, so. It's fun. It takes, he allows about 20 minutes for it. You
have an
have to do some paperwork ahead of time. What?
Right. I was gonna say, the actual scan only takes about 4 or 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, about 4 or 5 minutes.
Right. And they were completely booked. They were even being able to fit in, during some slow time, others that wanted to do it but didn't get on their schedule. So they did really well. I think they're going to be down at Timonium again next weekend.
I did not ask. That's the day after tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I don't know.
Well, he said he was going to be at Timonium, but I wasn't sure if he was referring to this show or one that's going to be up and coming.
Got it. Yeah.
But he does great work. Even though it didn't pick out the hat brim, he'll go online, get a kepi cap, and he's able to work his magic. But it's a lot of fun. His figures are really neat, is because at HO scale, I had 2 poses. I'm actually able to take the figure and set it on a level surface, and it stands there without any pins, without any glue, without a base underneath it. It just stands perfect. Now, if I hit the table or sneeze, I'm going to knock it over. So, but it's great detail, and it's unique pose. So, one of the things I've wanted that it's hard to find. I've done a lot of plastic surgery in converting like Prizer and other manufacturers' figures into non-combat poses for the military, because even Musket Miniatures and before them Thomas or K&M, their figures, they were neat figures, but a lot of bayonet charges or combat poses, and that's for train layout. I didn't really want to have a battle scene. I mean, Paul says Miluski's got doing the Lookout Mountain,
Mission Ridge. He's doing about
Missionary Ridge. That's right, Missionary Ridge. But I'm more interested in things like around the campfire or digging entrenchments, the more typical of the soldier's life, playing cards. One of the best products I was able to get at this train show was a little package. It had 3 violins and 3 banjos in it, an HO scale. So it's cool.
Rustic Rails made some good figures for non-combatants, and Woodland Scenics are easy conversions too. Yeah.
The reason I like the Prizer figures is they're actually, they're a little smaller, and the detail I think is a little finer.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they're probably truer to 187th.
But then again, some of their figures, like when you go to Merton, some of their figures are good, but some of them are actually almost like 190, something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was at the YouTuber meet and greet that they had at MiniPrints, and they actually tried to let's see, the name of the couple is called That Train Couple, and had them stand on the larger turntable, but unfortunately, and the thing is that if it worked, it would have been I said to him, says, if you weren't already married and all that, it would have make a great wedding topper. Because they're holding each other and all that, etc. But unfortunately, the the turntable, there's too much with the both of them on there for the turntable to turn. But that would have
Okay.
been neat.
Well, one of the things that Bernard said is I had asked him about having like a couple people doing what you said. And he said that the scanner has a problem picking out like the detail between the people.
Makes sense.
So you get big black holes in the scan that he has to go back in and it's like a photographer. He's like a photographer. You know, there's a whole session you're going through where the pictures are being taken, everything, and what most people don't see is there's like at least twice as much time behind the scenes editing the photos, make sure the exposure is right, that you bring out the detail and the shadows, that any we call them blinkies or highlights, blown out areas that that you compensate for that type of stuff. So that can take up much more time than the actual photo session.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's pretty much doing photos during the time period, because you had I mean, during the Civil War, everyone had to, it's like in order to pose for a picture, you had to stay there for a while. The same thing with the 3D printing. It's like standing there and like a picture, doing a picture during the Civil War.
They actually had during the war there were actually like clamps so they'd hold the people's head in position. Because someone invariably would make a noise and go, you can kind of turn your head and just blur the photo. So that was the interesting thing. So when you put your glasses on, without my glasses, it was great. With the glasses on, all of a sudden I could see all these people staring at me as I'm spinning around slowly and going, "Oh, what are you who?" Yeah, they must think I am.
Nah. Yeah, speaking of mini prints, I know they make those HO scale cannons. Does anybody know a manufacturer that does HO scale artillery that's plastic and not metal?
Airfix used to do them back in the 60s, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Airfix.
The
Yeah,
Airfix cannons, the ones that came with the Mantua sets were plastic. I don't know how accurate they are, plastic.
yeah, yeah.
You can get a 13-inch Seacoast mortar from BTS, which is
Yeah, I'm
a
looking,
nice skill.
as I'm thinking about doing an artillery train, I'm thinking if I do a like an artillery train, if I use all of the metal ones, that would be a very heavy train, I think. So I gotta,
Well, if you use the BTS flat cars and you put the metal on there, it might not be too bad. But the cannons that Bernard offers, which I think they're 12-pound Napoleons, they're really nicely detailed cannon, but they were $15 a piece. So
for one cannon?
yeah,
Tom,
it's
there's
not
somebody,
cheap.
What,
Hey,
Roger?
sorry, there's somebody on eBay doing plastic, and they look pretty good. You need to look at them yourself. They are HO, or at least he's claiming that. And I think they're somewhere between 8 and 10 a piece or something like that. But if it's plastic, it's nice and light for you, as you are looking for. And I think there's two different types. One, I believe, is a Parrot, and the other is a Napoleon, if I remember correctly.
If you're making or the intent is to make a whole train, you might get whatever metal cannon suits you and make a casting of it and then do resin, and you could just churn them out.
That's an idea.
It'd be a little involved for one or two cannon, but if you're going to do a whole train, that might make a little more sense. I mean, if you don't find what suits you in plastic,
Boy, that's a great idea. All
They're
right.
pretty simple kits from what I recall.
The
The metal ones, in other words,
oh yeah,
it wouldn't be hard to make a casting of them,
right.
a mold.
Yeah.
Well, I know LeBron, you've done resin castings, correct?
Yes,
In fact, I've got one of your Georgia Railroad
Bill's got one.
boxcars.
yeah.
Yeah, this is the MiniPrints cannon.
Right. Yeah, they're beautiful. Is it possible to do something that detailed, LeBron?
I've not tried doing anything that small.
Okay.
Uh,
I'll have to find somebody that knows how to cast and make him an offer he can't refuse.
That, I'll bet there are a million YouTube videos on how to cast resin and what supplies you have to buy to make the molds, et cetera, et cetera, et
Good
cetera.
idea. Right. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I would only say, maybe be a little leery about ones that are sponsored by the plastic company that they're using. So they might be biased on, oh yeah, it'll work for everything. It's like, maybe not.
But Tom, if you had a complete artillery train, you'd only have 3 or 4 guns on it, 3 or 4 cannons. And then you got the limbers, you got the Fords, you got the ambulance, you got the passenger car. So it just, you only really need 3 or 4 cannons if you had a complete artillery train.
But wouldn't an artillery train be at least 4 guns for a battery?
Well, I said, well, sometimes they're 3, but yeah, 3 or 4 guns would all
Right.
you need.
It might work because most of my flat cars are already weighted, but this could be an excuse to buy some more cars.
Well, that's the other way to skin a cat.
Yep. And then I can test out my new Micro Mark air gun.
There you go.
Airbrush. Right. There we
Yeah.
go. Yep. Yep. I was using going back to the Vallejo, they make a set for weathering new wood or old wood. And I used it on my Mantua platform cars. And holy smokes, it looks like wood. I was really impressed with the quality of the paints and how they portray that weathered wood look. Great stuff. And for plastic, yep.
I need to take a note of that because I'm doing a car that is probably going to be done in bare wood. So,
Oh,
Yeah,
about
I've used it too for ties, and with when you buy the kit, they have new weathered wood, or
Right.
they have a formula for making old weathered wood.
okay.
So it's like it's just cool the way you can do it, so that there's kind of a uniformity, but each board is different type thing.
Yep.
yeah, there's
and,
about 7 bottles of paint in there.
Actually, I put together a couple of BTS, the horizontal sheet box cars, and some of them I waited with the doors closed, but I have 2, one with both doors open and one with just one door open. I needed to add weight to there, so I was able to find in my stash couple of metal barrels and a metal crate and 3 trunks that put 3 in one car, 3 in another, and it brings it up to the right weight. But I'm using their wood set to color the barrels, and it looks like you would like to go into a museum and saw barrels on display or something, and some reenactment cap, rather than an old dilapidated barrel, a new barrel.
Oh,
The
nice.
wood is really good, with good colors.
Cool.
And that's a set, correct?
Oh
The
yeah,
set,
yep.
yeah.
And they have great instructions in there. Yeah, it's very clear.
Oh, it's step by step.
Yep. Yeah.
Splendid.
Yeah, that's great.
Charlie, while we're on barrels, do you know of any barrels in O gauge that have the tops off and are actually hollowed out?
No, but you need to come to Memphis. I got some barrels.
Okay.
I got lots of other stuff. Uh,
Those will be mighty expensive barrels, but sure, I'm game.
I I forgot the last place I got wood barrels from, but I'll try to find it for the next get together. I don't have any hollow barrels, but occasionally we will drill the top out a little bit
That's what I'm thinking about doing.
and pour some resin, for
Yeah.
rain barrels and
Yeah.
barrels on the bridges. But the little wooden barrels that we get most of, one end is a totally flat bottom,
Right,
but the top is slightly recessed like a real barrel.
right.
So if you can do your water effect, just painting that, and which we've done, several of, it looks like a rain barrel.
Yeah,
But
that's what I'm tasked to make, is a couple rain barrels. I've got Clover House wooden barrels, and I'm thinking about drilling them out, but I just wondered if there were ones that were already made, it'd save some time.
no, but like I say, if you're going to represent a full rain barrel, then you can just do your paint effect on the top of those.
On the
others.
top, yeah,
So what barrels do you have? What did you say? What was the name of it?
from Clover House.
Clover House, okay. I don't remember ours right now. All right. Yeah, I'll come up with my source on those others. You get a bag of like 25 or a bag of
Right,
50.
right.
Wow.
And I've come up with a couple of different ways to pickle pickle the wood. I got to try this Viejo, but we have different schemes to weather the wood. You can also get not aqua regia, but the nitric acid and iron filings that the gunsmiths use to do a
Glue the
walnut
barrel.
stock. So anyway, you can I've had too much aluminum in my life. I can't remember, but just a small ball of that solution. I mean, you can do all sorts of. We used it for a crane, a cotton crane in Memphis. It's the ultimate stain. It's a true molecular stain. There's no residue on this thing. It actually gets in the wood and the iron oxidizes. It's just beautiful finish.
Wow.
But on the barrels, you can take a permanent marker and you can blacken the bands or gray the bands. And then there's a solution that we use that the Canadian Forest Service uses to weather wood at their different visitor centers and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
It's a non-toxic substance, and you can just dip a piece of wood in it, and it's just weathered. It's just beautiful. Yeah, it's
good.
gray to green.
This was what I used to stain them, the Minwax.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, I had one in light oak and one in darker. And then, then of course I had to go over and paint the hoops.
Huh.
All right. Let me.
So these are wooden barrels you're using? Dan?
Yeah, the Clover House barrels are actual turned wood,
Okay.
lifetime.
You see this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's kind of emperor's new clothes. You know what I mean? Like this little thing probably costs about $20, but it makes gallons and gallons.
Hmm.
And I'm telling you, you just have to almost show, you can just dip the wood in it. You can leave it outside for a couple of hours or not. And it does a beautiful job on lots of different woods. Usually on my ties, I weathered them out in the driveway for about a year. You know, I just got this big, you know, snow disc like the kids slide down a hill. You know, I got a couple of those, and you know, I just got, you know, hundreds to thousands of ties that I've cut, and then when they dry up a little bit, I'll water them. So I got my little crop of ties, and that's so if I've got time, I'll use that to weather the wood. But this other is almost, you know, within a day, you got the wood to make a boardwalk or a loading platform, something like that. It's good.
What's the name of it again?
It's called Lifetime.
Lifetime.
All right, and they got different size packages. Okay, this actually will make 5 gallons of mix.
Wow.
And so you definitely want to get your little scale and just mix it up a quart at a time, because I mean you don't use much of it.
Right.
But it's good. It's real good. It must be some sort of chromium salt. I mean, if you get it on your, I mean, you can get it on your hand. You can actually drink it if you wanted to, but I mean, it smells like you're in the chemistry lab and you got hold of some chrome or something like that. But
That's a good one.
Yep.
Add that to the list.
Hey, LeBron,
Yes,
I have a question for you.
I hope I have an answer for you.
Okay, I'm looking at your gazelle there behind Tom. How did you paint the cab on that?
Various shades of browns and tans. Just light
Okay.
streaking it. Then I
Because it's a good wood color. Like,
Yes.
don't remember the specific wood colors I used, but I started out with a base and it's kind of dry brushed over it with some various shades to give it a kind of a wood effect.
man,
And then I glossed it, made it glossy.
Where'd you get the idea to paint the band at the top of the smokestack?
Probably from you.
Oh,
I don't know, Tom. I really don't.
right. Right.
that can take us down a whole different road of discussion.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen groups get lost in discussions where the band's painted or not painted, or was it the light of the photography, or that whole bit.
You know, in one of those books about the history of the railroads, I do remember one author mentioning that the top, that rim was painted. I'll have to go back through the books and see where that is, because that's
Okay.
where I think I got the idea to paint it. I think one was for a hospital train.
I read somewhere about hospital trains having the rim painted. And
Right. That's good.
but most of my locomotives don't have it painted.
Right. Yeah.
I painted those that just for my own sake, I painted those that were designated as passenger locomotives.
Okay.
Freight locomotives I left without the painted band.
Okay.
How you coming with your turnouts in Atlanta?
Slowly. Hand spiking is a lot of fun.
Right. Oh man. How many more you got to do?
Oh, about 1,000. No, turnouts. I've just got one more turnout in Atlanta to do.
Oh, okay. That's
So
good.
then I've got to weather and paint the tires, plastic tires, and weather them. So
Right. Got it. Yep.
Who else went to Amherst?
Dan was there.
Andy,
Andy
Andy
Estep.
Estep, yeah.
He was trying to get on, but he was having trouble connecting. I don't know what happened.
Mike was there, right?
Yeah, Mike Willigal was there. It was great to meet him.
Andy Brusgard.
Yep, yep. Several of us met up over with George Bogatuk and hung out there for a little while. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, I think that was the crew from our group.
Yeah, I missed it because I was only there on Sunday. I did
Ah.
wind up meeting up with Andy and George from Soundtracks.
Andy Broussard.
No, Andy Epstein, the one that was get on. I said it was nice to actually see him in 3D.
Yeah.
But George also showed me his general also.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful job on that.
Very
what was he running it on Sunday?
He had it in a box, but his coworker said that that I might be interested in seeing it, and they brought it out specifically just for me.
Nice.
Good. It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And apparently it's the newer Bachman version.
Oh, the new
tooling.
Yeah, because I guess it doesn't have a drive shaft, which sort of like surprised me. It's like, wait, there's no drive shaft.
Yeah, that's the newer Bachman version. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, has anyone done a conversion of the ones with the shaft drives so they wouldn't have them?
Oh, not me. I think Al Mueller's the only one I know that's tried to do that. But that was in a that wasn't a general though. He did it in the what's that other brass locomotive?
The Crook.
Yeah, the Crooks. Yeah. He put a motor in the boiler.
Mm.
Actually, it was, I think, Dave Cunningham who moved the motor into the boiler.
Dave Hoffman.
Hoffman, yeah.
Yeah.
But Al certainly was very involved in that project.
Right.
I was lucky to get one. I haven't heard from Dave Hoffman in a year or two.
I think he might have passed. I've called several times and there's nothing there. I know he and his wife were having some pretty tough health issues.
Every time I called, there was a doctor's appointment somewhere.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, I also know that there's the Taiko Mantua, I guess they call it the Dixie Bell, which is the Sierra number 3, which I guess is OO instead of HO. Also, I guess the Life Flight tea kettle, I guess they call it, is also an OO. Is there any other locomotives in OO, or are that basically the only 2 models that are out there?
I think the Reno's one. Is that
The
who
River
makes that?
Rossi products are actually more OO scale.
Okay.
Probably the JW Boker, if you're familiar with that one.
Yeah, good one.
A lot of those were actually made by a company, Poacher.
Mhm.
Some of them sold under River Rossi, some sold
Yeah, I never
under HM.
Never heard of the Bockler at all.
Hey, on your Boker there, is the motor in the engine or the tender?
Let's see now.
Mine, it was in the tender.
Mine
This
was
one?
the cab.
This one, you can barely see the drive shaft.
Yep.
Okay. I actually have one where the motor's in the engine.
And I
It
got
seems
one
that-
that has the motor in the engine. I got,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
basically last year I wound up buying anything I can get a hold of basically for parts. So, because they're not manufactured anymore, so. But you're saying that the Bockler and the let's see now. And the Rivarossi version are 00.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, I got as I said, I bought
That's the IHC one, isn't it?
this one I think it says AHM.
Oh, okay.
Rivarossi built for AHM. And let's see. I also do have a couple of Bachmans and at least 3 of the Mantua generals. So with a 8-foot long layout, I got plenty of engines.
If you put one behind the other, can they go in a complete circle?
No, because it's a only a 1.5 feet wide, so there's doesn't go all the way around.
Okay. But as long as there's space for another engine, you don't have too many engines.
Right.
Well, yeah, I think I could definitely fill up my layout a lot unrealistically of trains and stuff like or locomotives, I would say. But I do have I have bought it's interesting because it seems that I could find fully operational locomotives, but finding ones that are I've only found about 2 or 3 that are that are not complete. Those are obviously going to be the ones that are used for parts, but I do have a lot of them that are. It's one of those things of I'm sort of like, gee, I really want to take them apart because they run, but if I need the parts, I need the parts.
Yep. Yep.
And one of the things I'm planning on with the tea kettle, since I sort of figured out that the cylinder spacing is actually very close to what it would be if it was a 6-foot gauge locomotive. So my idea is to name it the Experiment and see about if I can turn around and make a working 6-foot gauge locomotive out of it.
Wow. So you have track already laid?
I have 2 dioramas and a test track.
Okay.
That's 6 foot. I haven't built any switches yet, but I will have to eventually learn how to do that. I've got a fast track jig, so I can do number 4 standard gauge. But I guess I can. I've seen some people taking. They would take templates and sort of kind of do the same thing
To make it 6 foot.
Make it 6 foot because it's 1 millimeter too narrow for S gauge.
Whoa.
If I wanted to cheat, I could theoretically use S gauge, but then the rails and ties would be too large.
Right.
For a small phenomenal fee, Tim Morris will cut you a fixture to whatever you tell him. At fast track.
Okay.
So, I mean, you could ask for 4.5 frog or whatever strange, and you can also change the gauge too. So I mean, I don't know what it is in general, but it's close to $500 when I did a number 4 3-way stub, and so I don't know if he has that as a product now. Sometimes if he's interested in what you request, I mean, they may make a product out of it as well. But
they make I think it's a number 6 3-foot gauge stub switch,
Yeah. Okay.
but I haven't seen the number 4 standard. But that's good to know. That's
Yeah, they,
when it's time to go nuts,
but
building the actual layout.
he's an incredible track layer and especially switches. If you've ever seen the layouts that he's made, it's hard to find. He's got some switching layout, some harbor scene that he would take to shows. I never saw it in person, but just looking at his personal website on, switches, crossing switches. I mean, it's insane.
Didn't he start Fast Tracks because he wanted to turn around and build the Bronx Terminal Railroad?
Well, that's the switching layout that he's did the Bronx Terminal.
Is that on the Fast Track site, Charlie?
Yeah, I hadn't been on it lately, but somehow you could get onto Tim's personal stuff on Fast Tracks. But yeah, so yeah, it's Tim Warris.
Morris is an MORR.
No, WARRIS. I think Warris.
Got it.
Yeah.
Check that out.
I've got a railroad question.
Fire away.
All right.
Definite maybe.
All right. So let me see if I can share the screen with this one image. If that's okay, Tom.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, here it is. Got it. Did it come on? No.
It
Yeah.
did.
Memphis
Ah,
Railway.
Can you see it?
yeah.
Okay. All right. This was a real find for me. I mean, it's a train schedule for Memphis and Charleston from April 1868, and so that's pretty lucky. But just to kind of get you up to speed on this thing, there were two each day. There were 2 trains that left Memphis heading for Chattanooga, and 2 trains leaving Chattanooga heading for Memphis. And there's also there are a couple of branch lines involved, but not getting into those. But what's interesting is that the 2 trains that leave Memphis, one and a super interesting thing is these trains ran night and day. They ran all night. So they had, that was routine to have nighttime operations. So they only have 2 names for these trains. One's express and one's mail. And my question is, what's a mail train? Is that everything, but no passengers? And what's an express train? So if you look at the schedule, the express train actually is slower than the mail train getting there. And it will spend, say 40 minutes at a couple of different stations. And you figure that must be for a meal break, kind of like the Great Locomotive Chase. So the express train leaves Memphis about an hour or so ahead of the mail train, but the mail train overruns or overtakes it, and it passes. And coming from Chattanooga, the express train leaves like 6 hours ahead of the mail train, and the mail train slowly gains on it, but never passes it with that break.
Wow.
And so in my operations, I'm going to try to capture as much of that as I can of these 4 trains routinely moving. And obviously there are specials that I don't have on this schedule, like coal trains and ore trains. And certainly I don't have the military schedule, but it's just interesting that they call one express and one mail. And just to think, you know, what constitutes a mail train and what constitutes an express train.
Wow, I have no idea.
Well, if you only have 2 trains a day, your mail train has got to be a passenger train. I would assume that also has a mail car attached to it.
But it doesn't make passenger stops. It only stops for about 10 minutes. You know, it never makes a, you know, 30 or 40-minute breakfast break or dinner break or something like that.
Right. Right.
But, you know, reading about the Memphis and Charleston, they hauled a tremendous amount of freight. Right before the war started, they were handling half of the cotton in the United States. And just among other things. But they actually made more money on passenger service. So they were hauling a bunch of both.
If you take that fact and you couple it together with there are only 2 trains a day plus your accommodation train, the mail train had to be carrying passengers. How could you exceed your freight revenue if you're only carrying, or you only had 1 passenger train a day? Follow my logic?
No, I do, but you follow mine in that they must have told them that you have to bring your own lunch or something. You know,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We're not stopping.
Yeah, I that may be the case, but I don't know what the rules are. This was 1868, so U.S.
Yeah.
Post Office rules for carrying mail would have been in effect. Or maybe they didn't even have rules at that point in time. I don't know. I don't think it was until around the 1880s that they really got the mail carrying rules kind of set in stone. So it could have been very loosey-goosey around that period.
The other thing is, you know, railroads might have just sold tickets on any train, even if it was a freight or something else, you know, sold tickets to passengers. The Santa Fe has specific ones in the rule book that they don't sell tickets on, but every other train they do.
Yeah, and that went up into the 60s, the 1960s. They just didn't advertise it, but you could hitch a ride on a freight train. You could pay a fare.
Yeah,
be on a freight train.
Gotcha.
Well, I would have to say this is my assumption, is that mail was carrying, was carrying letters, whereas express would be sort of like what we would call like fast freight.
No, that's express is a passenger train. This is a passenger train schedule. I think you've got right, Charlie.
Well, I don't know. I would have thought there'd been more trains running.
I think you've got a passenger train schedule, and there were freight trains that were scheduled that in other words, this was probably published in the newspaper and it was for the traveling public. That's my guess.
Right. Well, I think that makes a lot of sense that there were literally unit trains of cotton moving, and
that were on the
schedule.
Employee schedule, and this was the general traveling public schedule. That would be my guess, because you're right. Three trains a day, and one of them being a passenger train and the other being a freight train, doesn't make a lot of sense for that period.
Yeah, I think you're right. This may be strictly the trains that the public had access to. One way or another. Very good.
Now, what does ACC stand for?
Accommodation.
Accommodation.
An accommodation train, which is their way of saying it stopped at all the whistle stops. It would accommodate any and all goods, which probably also, and Phil tell me if you think I'm wrong, that would probably be a mixed train.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, man, I'm glad I asked. This is great stuff.
Yeah, so, okay, so, the mail, yeah, okay.
Well, I take that back. It might have been that they accommodated any passengers in the caboose, depending on the traffic, but likely a mixed train.
Maybe one passenger car or a combine,
Yeah.
and then whatever else got coupled on.
Ooh, very
That'd be
good.
what I'd expect.
So are we saying that both the mail and the express would have carried passengers?
That's my belief.
So it's almost like the express train stopping longer at the big depots is kind of your first class situation. I guess that you get off for a meal
Well,
and
well,
then
Charlie, it depends on how you define first class, I guess, because your mail train is probably faster. So if
Yeah.
you wanted to buy a lunch hamper,
Right.
and get there quicker,
Right.
okay, you took the mail train. But if you didn't mind stopping 40 minutes, but you got a decent lunch at a sit down lunch counter, you went the express train.
Yeah. All right, well, that's good stuff. I would love to find their freight schedule.
Yeah.
And try to intermix the two, but by next October, we'll have this figured out.
Where did you find this schedule, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm sorry you asked me that. I don't know where I got it at this point. I've forgotten. That's terrible.
Charlie, another clue is in the bottom right-hand corner where it's talking about through fare at $12.50.
Yeah.
Which indicates that's a passenger fare as opposed to a rate which would have been quoted by state. Because if you wanted to, I don't know, ship 20 head of cattle from Huntsville to Pocahontas, there would have been a different, the rates would have been much more involved than just $12.50 for the length of the line.
You see the other line, it says wayfares,
Mm-hmm.
4.5 cents per mile.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that a passenger wayfare?
I would assume that's your passenger rate for, and you just calculate the mileage from your departure point to your destination and multiply it by 4.5 cents. That would be your fare.
Oh, hence, that's why they have the miles listed on there. I got it. Okay.
All right, and the other thing to point out on this is, so the Memphis and Charleston basically ran Memphis to Chattanooga,
Right.
but it linked up with Nashville and Chattanooga at Stevenson, and so over the years they had different arrangements on how they split the monies on that and who actually drove the locomotives. But you can see they change. It's, they both go to Stevenson, and there's just one line from Stevenson to Chattanooga.
That's why your 0 mile post is at Stevenson.
Yes.
Oh, how about that? Yeah, yeah.
Well, no, you read the other one, it starts at 0 at Memphis.
Right. And well, in other words, depending on which direction.
Yeah.
At Stevenson is where you had your crew changes and your change of territory.
Sure.
But it ran on in Chattanooga. They had depot in Chattanooga. They had a roundhouse in Chattanooga.
So I'm guessing they had trackage rights. Does that sound?
Yeah, no, they did.
Okay.
So they got into surveying this line or the lines from Memphis to Chattanooga and Nashville, Chattanooga. It's fascinating stuff. I mean, the civil engineers really knew their stuff. But at the point that the Memphis and Charleston were laying their line to come into Chattanooga, they're gonna come in on the north side of the river. They came to an agreement because there's going to be a major kind of pissing match over Chattanooga. And so they decided the best thing to do was to share that track.
Mhm.
You know, what's cool about this too, it gives you the connections so you can see what interchanges that are plausible for your Memphis and Charleston. So I guess theoretically, since it connects with the Mississippi Central and the Mobile and Ohio,
Oh,
you
yeah.
could plausibly have cars from those lines on your railroad.
Yeah. So well, it's just like the three lines that were in Memphis were ordered connected by Leonidas Polk in 1862 to help with the evacuation of Memphis and moving military supplies. But yeah, it interchanged with the Mississippi Central, Mobile, and Ohio, and there was one other line into Alabama that it had kind of a steamboat connection with. But yeah, there are a lot of interchanges if you wanted.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I like the WNA too, because there's like God, there's got to be like 5 different interchanges. So it gives you the variety of cars from different lines to shunt around and pick up at different interchanges and what have you. And that I've started to include that into my ops, whether it's the Rome Railroad or the East Tennessee and Georgia. There's cars from those lines that I have placed in on the WNA where there were deliveries or what have you, or pickups. And, one of the assignments is to collect those cars and drop them off at the appropriate interchange. And it makes for just a fascinating ops element. It's too much fun. I can't wait till the 9th.
Charlie, was the Mobile in Ohio 5-foot gauge or was it broad gauge? Do you know? I can't remember.
Mobile, Ohio,
Yeah,
it was 5 foot.
5 foot. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because they interchanged directly with the Memphis and Charleston. Yeah.
Let me put something in there. I've been listening and now I'll speak up. On that schedule, it was just up there. Figured out you had a mail train, express, and accommodation. Trying to figure out what an express train is. Well, mail, because the express and the mail look to be taken similar times between stops and making all the same stops. So what's the difference? Well, mail train carries mail and an express train isn't what we think now, a fast train that doesn't make many stops. Express train carried express, the sort of stuff that FedEx or UPS would carry now.
Yeah.
Express trains were around in the 1860s. Express companies were around in the 1860s. American Express was around. They weren't doing credit cards or traveler's checks. They were handling packages. Adams Express, I believe there was one called Southern Express.
Yeah.
So it may be that an express train is a train that carries express.
The
That's-
Southern Express was where the company shot off from Adams when the states seceded. They formed their own express
It
line.
was the same, but it would have been the same type of business.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that that's what what the express train is. It's a train that carries express.
That's good.
So this is the less than the LCL, the less than carload
Right, the high value parcels.
shipments. Yeah.
Yeah, high value parcels, not just LCL, because you could be shipping a couple of kegs of nails to a customer and that wouldn't be going express. But it would be small, high value parcels, exactly.
The last vestige would have been REA, for those of us who can remember it.
Yeah, well, by the 20th century, yeah.
So would the Southern Express had their own cars, do you think?
Yes, they would have taken over any of the Adams equipment that was in the Confederacy.
I'll be danged. Wow, we could have a car that says Southern Express then.
Yes.
There's another one to add. I love it. Right. So was there a formal, if you will, name for a train that was not on the schedule? So from a military ops standpoint, if they decided to run a special train, would it be called a special? Or was there a name for it, or do we not know?
Extra.
Extra,
Read all about it.
right? Okay, an extra, good.
Well,
Good.
it's also possible they could make it a special train with a schedule. So in the I think maybe the Civil War era might be a little early for this, but in the timetable, in the rule book that I have for the 1888 on the Santa Fe, they could write a train order to make a train that it gives it times at all the stations, a train order with times at all the stations for that train. And that means, and then they could say it's the a first class or second class or third class train.
Okay, good. Yeah, an extra, cool.
At
One
that point
thing-
in time, you're getting a little more organization.
Yeah.
You're talking about the 1880s and I don't know what to say about 1860s operation because things were a little more loosey-goosey.
Right, they had to
back
make
then.
it up as they went.
Yeah, I wound up calculating it said 4.5 cents per mile, and it's 271 miles. According to my calculator, that's $1,219.05.
$1,200?
$1,200.
But
Which
it's
is
$12.90.
$12.
$12.
Yeah, per point.
Yeah, 4 cents a mile.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what I did wrong. All right.
Damn,
Hence $12.50.
I ain't riding your railroad, buddy.
I have to make up the money because it's broad.
No wonder the Memphis and Charleston made so much money on its passenger traffic.
Right.
They would ship a bale of cotton from Memphis to New York. I've seen the quote on this for $5.
Wow.
So $5, that's 500 pounds from Memphis to New York.
Wow.
And that's just 500 pounds. It's pretty bulky as well.
Right.
So,
Right. Good. Okay. Anybody else with a question or anything, or are we pretty much run the course? All right. So, good. I tell you, I love how this just evolves organically. Thanks for bringing that up, Charlie. That opened up a really cool conversation.
Thank you for the help, I tell you.
Yep. Next time, all we want to see is, another Memphis schedule that talks about freight trains, so we can zone in on that. So do some research, brother.
Oh, all right.
That would be a real find.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to, God.
It'd be a real find if I could just remember where I found the passengers.
Yeah, it looks like it came out of a much larger book because it looked like on the upper left there was a page number.
Yeah, you would think that, because Don Ball found that W&A schedule. I don't know where that came from. Well, I know in the annual reports, there was a couple of those. And I'm sure you've gone through your Memphis and Charleston annual reports, right?
Yeah, a few times.
Right.
Does Dave Bright have anything like that on his side?
I could easily have gotten that from Dave Bright. That's the sad thing. I just can't remember.
All right.
But I'm trying to get into, what Tom has gotten so excited about, and that's, drive these trains to schedule and whatnot. And so I've been working on that, and that's why I was asking.
Right. Yeah,
It's an addiction.
it is, man. It is. It's a healthy one though. Charlie, if you want, I can send you my schedule so you got an idea of how I laid them out.
Yeah, do that. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Cool. Good. All right, folks. As always, great to see you all. And see you in a couple of weeks, presentation or not. I think, you know, we got the rhythm, and if you want to come on, cool. If not, that's cool too. And happy modeling. Stay well.
See everybody.
Bye-bye.
Adios, y'all.
Do.
Be good.